Welcome to Starbound. My name's the Voice Ogre, and I'll be your narrator today. Nearly 500 supporters get early access to our stories, including brand new stories of Sunspire Academy, which I happen to do, and Freyren and Rimiki. If you'd like to unlock early access and support new episodes and future series, tap Join below to become a Starbound member. Now, let's get into today's story. The Ares Interplanetary War College looked like someone had taken a brutalist architect's fever dream and carved it into Martian bedrock with a very angry laser. Its hangar could have housed a small fleet, which made the 12 cadets standing at attention feel remarkably like specks of dust that someone had forgotten to sweep up. General Corin, dean of the academy, surveyed them with the expression of someone who had eaten something disagreeable and was too polite to mention it. "You have mastered tactics, starship command, and zero-G combat," she said, her Varn vocal harmonics adding unnecessary gravitas to every syllable. "You are believed you are prepared for anything the galaxy can throw at you." She paused. The cadets' chests swelled with pride. "You are wrong." The chests deflated. "Behind me," Korn continued, gesturing to a figure who had his back to them, "is Chief Warrant Officer Rhett Talon. He will be introducing you to a new form of warfare, one that will challenge everything you think you know about combat doctrine." The figure didn't turn around. He was busy brushing something the cadets couldn't yet see. The rhythmic swish-swish of bristles on fur filled the cavernous space. "Officer Talon," Corin prompted. Swish, swish. "Almost done," came the reply. Human, casual, completely unconcerned with military protocol. "You can't brief with a matted coat. That is just unprofessional." Turok vibrated with indignation. "What unconventional asset requires grooming, sir?" Rhett turned, setting down the brush with the care of someone handling religious artifacts. He was everything a decorated alien military cadet would find offensive. Scarred, stubbled, wearing fatigues that had seen better decades. His eyes, though. His eyes held the kind of calm that preceded very bad things happening to other people. "Excellent question, Cadet, Turok, sir. 1st Battalion, Varn Expeditionary." "Don't care," Rhett interrupted. "The asset is a purpose-bred biological weapon with approximately 40,000 years of selective refinement. It possesses sensory capabilities that make your best scanners look like tin cans with a string. It operates on a completely analog neural network, making it immune to hacking and EMP. The cadets leaned forward. This sounded promising. Revolutionary, even. It can track down targets across any terrain, detect chemical signatures at parts per billion, and apply lethal force with a bite pressure of 238 pounds per square inch. Rhett smiled. It also enjoys belly rubs and has opinions about squirrels, tennis balls, and biting. He gave a low whistle. From the shadows, shapes materialized. 3 Belgian Malinois emerged with the fluid grace of smoke-given teeth and purpose. They arranged themselves in a perfect tactical triangle around Rhett. Havoc at his right, Scythe at his left, Brisket holding the rear. The Kaelari cadets' tendrils went rigid. The Tarsari made a sound like a tea kettle having an anxiety attack. Even the Varn, who prided themselves on logic above all, took involuntary steps backward. "These," Rhett said conversationally, "are dogs." 50 million years ago," Rhett began, pacing now, the dogs moving with him, "my ancestors were prey. Soft, slow, got no claws worth mentioning, and teeth designed for fruit. It should have been an evolutionary footnote." They stopped in front of Celine, who looked nervous. "But instead, we did something that no other species in the known galaxy has successfully replicated. We looked at our world's apex predators, and we thought, hey, that could be useful." You tamed them?" Celine's voice was barely above a whisper. Tamed! Rhett laughed. It was not a reassuring sound. Look at them. Really? Look. Do they look tame to you? Havoc yawned, displaying a mouthful of evolutionary arguments against veganism. We didn't tame anything. We negotiated. We offered partnership, food, shelter, purpose, the whole 9 yards. They offered teeth, loyalty, and the kind of intuition that quantum computers still can't replicate. He resumed pacing. Every dog that you see is a designer weapon. Shepherds for control, hunters for pursuit, guards for defense. We didn't conquer them. We gave them jobs. And they've been exceeding performance metrics ever since. Jasper, the Tarsari, raised a trembling hand.
But, surely they're just animals.
Just animals. Rhett repeated. Cadet, these just animals can read microexpressions, detect pheromone changes, and predict hostile action 2.3 seconds before it occurs. They've probably saved more human lives than all of our medical technology combined, and they do it because they want to. Your mission, Rhett continued, his tone shifting from educational to ominous, is to master humanity's oldest bioweapons. You will learn their language, not words, but intent. You will forge a battle bond that transcends species. You will become something new. Warriors who fight with instinct, augmenting intellect. He paused, letting that sink in. But first, you'll learn what it feels like to be hunted by Earth's premier predator. Because if you can't defend against them, you sure as hell can't lead them. Turog was skeptical. You expect us to be afraid of pets? Havoc's tail, which had been perfectly still, gave a single wag. Rhett's smile grew wider. Brisket? Demo. The command was casual. The result was not. Brisket lunged. One moment he was sitting. The next, he was airborne. 80 pounds of muscle and conviction aimed at Turog's center mass. The Varn had just enough time to register that his combat algorithms were suggesting run before impact. The takedown was textbook perfect. Brisket's jaws locked onto Turog's arm, protected by his armor, and used the momentum to drive him to the ground. The crash echoed through the hangar like dropped silverware in a cathedral. Aus, Rhett said calmly. Brisket released immediately, trotting back to position as if he'd fetched a newspaper rather than demonstrated why humans had nightmares about wolves for millennia. Turog lay on the ground, processing. His armor was uncracked, but scored. The dog had found the joint weakness. Lesson 1, Rhett said, offering no hand up. Respect the asset. Class dismissed. Bite suits at 0500 don't be late. They get cranky when breakfast is delayed. Rhett smirked. The bite suit made Turog look like a Marshall marshmallow. This was intentional, though the design philosophy of maximum padding, minimum dignity seemed excessive. Today, Rhett announced to the assembled cadets, you learn fear. The primal recognition that you are made of meat, and all of Earth's apex predators have canines meant to shred said meat. Even some herbivores. Rhett flashed a small smile, all teeth, including humans. He gestured to the training field, a mixture of obstacles, barriers, and what appeared to be prayer circles drawn in chalk. A medical team waited at the edge, looking bored. They wouldn't stay bored long. Cadet Turog, since you're so eager to prove pets aren't scary, you're up first. Turog waddled forward, his confidence intact despite the suit. My species has perfect thermal regulation and enhanced reaction times. I think that I can handle a... He made a gesture. It wasn't threatening exactly, but it was quick and dismissive. A flick of his wrist that in Varn culture meant insignificant. Brisket took that personally. His weight shifted to his haunches, ears flat against his head. No! Brisket's tactical approach involved all four legs leaving the ground and his considerable mass becoming briefly airborne. Turog's enhanced reaction time let him see it coming. It did not let him do anything about it. They went down hard. Brisket's jaws found the reinforced arm on the suit and applied enthusiastic negative reinforcement to it. The suit held, but Turog's dignity did not. "House!" Rhett commanded. Brisket released and trotted back, tail wagging slightly. He looked pleased with his performance review. Rhett couldn't smother his own pride and smile. "Lesson learned?" Rhett asked the fallen Turog.
Don't challenge the apex predator.
Turog wheezed. "Close enough. Celine, you're up." The Kalari came forward.
I would like to note that my species evolved on a gas giant. We have no natural predators.
"Congratulations," Rhett said dryly. "You're about to get an unnatural one. Scythe, Zeke." Scythe didn't launch like Brisket. He stalked, circled. Celine tried to track him, but he kept vanishing into her blind spots. "He's hurting you," Rhett called out. "Reading your body language. Next, he'll—" Scythe struck mid-sentence, coming from an angle Celine hadn't even considered. "Your species may not have predators," Rhett observed as Scythe efficiently demonstrated the tactical applications of 42 teeth. "But Earth did, and we made friends with them." Week 2 was when Jasper discovered his special talent, being catastrophically bad at evasion.
Thermal dampeners activated.
He pronounced excitedly, his Tarsari technology making him invisible to infrared.
No way they can track.
Havoc walked directly toward him and sat down, looking vaguely insulted.
How?
Jasper's ear stems wilted. "You are invisible to heat sensors," Red explained patiently. "But you still likely smell like anxiety and whatever Tarsari eat for breakfast. What is that anyway? Synthesized protein?"
Fermented roots.
Jasper mumbled. "That explains the smell. Havoc could have tracked you through a hurricane. Try again." By the end of week 2, they'd learned all the basics. 1. Dogs tracked scent particles measured in parts per trillion. 2. Their hearing extended into ranges most species used for communications. 3. They could detect muscle tension and other body language from 30 meters away, sometimes farther, if they were relying on sense like stress hormones instead of sight. 4. They really, really enjoyed their work. "The prey drive," Red explained during a rare classroom session, "is not aggression. It's focus, purpose. The same instinct that helped them hunt is what makes them the perfect teammates."
So how do we defend against something that enjoys hunting us?
Celine asked. "You don't defend," Rhett said. "You redirect. You use their instincts against them. Prey runs in straight lines. Predators expect that. So you don't. You become unpredictable, chaotic. You think like something that survived long enough to develop space travel despite being made of meat." Week 4 brought everything together in a culmination exercise, the Gauntlet. "Simple rules," Red announced. "Make it from here to the extraction point, 6 kilometers through varied terrain. The dogs will be released in waves. If you're caught, you start over. Time limit is 3 hours. Failure means remedial training with me personally." The cadets exchanged glances. Remedial training with Rat was rumored to involve things like motivational maulings and character building via controlled terror. "Questions?" Turog raised a hand. "What constitutes being caught?" As if in answer, Brisket grabbed the practice arm attached to Turog's suit and shook it like a chew toy. The Varn's enhanced skeleton rattled. "That," Rhett said helpfully. "Begin." The first wave was Brisket, Scythe, and Havoc, the primary hunters. They moved through the course like a wolf pack, communicating in ways the cadets' universal translators couldn't parse. Celine made it 2 kilometers before Scythe materialized from behind a rock formation she'd sworn was empty. Her evasion had improved, but Scythe had learned her patterns. He herded her into a canyon with no exit. Jasper surprised everyone by lasting the longest, not through skill or strength, but through sheer, chaotic unpredictability. He ran in patterns that made no sense, doubled back randomly, and at one point tried to climb a tree, badly. Havoc tracked him easily, but seemed genuinely entertained by the effort. When he finally caught the Tarsari, it was almost gentle. "You lasted 43 minutes," Red informed Jasper later. "That's a record for first attempts."
Really?
Jasper's ear stems perked up. "No, but you needed the confidence boost. The real record is 12 seconds. Turog, surprisingly, was the first to complete the course through sheer, stubborn determination. Each time he was caught, he started over immediately. No complaints, no excuses. On his 7th attempt, something changed. Instead of trying to outrun Brisket, he started thinking like him, anticipating where the dog would set ambushes, using terrain to funnel pursuit into disadvantageous positions. He made it to the extraction point with 12 minutes to spare. "How?" Celine asked later. Turog's form shifted to what might have been satisfaction. "I stopped thinking of him as an opponent to defeat. I started thinking of him like a problem to solve. Every capture taught me something, and by the 7th run, I knew his patterns." "And that," Red announced, having overheard, "is exactly the point. You are not learning to defeat dogs. You are learning to think like them. Because in 2 weeks, you won't be running from them. You will be running with them." The kennel smelled like wet dog and kibble. 20 dogs waited behind reinforced gates, each a different flavor of controlled violence. The cadets stood in a line, trying not to look like a buffet. "You don't choose your partner," Red explained. "They choose you. Dogs read character like you read tactical displays. They know who you are before you do." "That's ridiculous," Turog muttered. "Is it?" Red opened the first gate. "Tell me, Turog. When you meet someone new, what do you analyze?" "Tactical capability, threat assessment, potential resource value." "Exactly. You think. Dogs feel. They smell confidence, fear, aggression, compassion. They read micro-expressions that you don't even know you're making. They see who you are when you're not trying to do anything, be anything." He paused, which is why this is going to be hilarious. Dogs emerged, evaluated, and either approached or dismissed each cadet with brutal honesty. A German Shepherd mix approached Turog, sniffed once, and sneered before moving on. A Border Collie looked at Jasper's nervous energy and practically rolled its eyes. Celine sat perfectly still as dog after dog passed her by. Her bioluminescence dimmed with each rejection. Just as disappointment began to get her, Scythe approached. The lean dog circled her once, and twice, and settled his head on her knee with a sigh that suggested he'd been looking for her all along. "Interesting," Rhett murmured. "Scythe doesn't usually—" He stopped. "Actually, no, that makes perfect sense. Carry on." Jasper, meanwhile, was having the opposite experience. Every dog took one look at his nervous energy and decided they had better options. His ear stems drooped lower with each passing. He tried to make himself smaller, as if he could disappear entirely. Then, Havoc stood up. The entire kennel went quiet. Brett's personal dog, who'd been observing from the corner like a judge at a particularly disappointing talent show, padded over to the dejected Tarsari, sniffed once, and a thorough investigation that started at Jasper's feet ended at his drooping ear stems. Then, with the gravity of a king bestowing knighthood, Havoc pressed his head into Jasper's hand. "Well," Brett said, his voice carefully neutral, that's never happened before." "Is that bad?" Jasper squeaked. It's not bad. It's just... Havoc doesn't do partners. He barely tolerates me, and I raised him from 8 weeks old. Rhett studied them both. He sees something in you. I will be very interested to find out what. Turog ended up with Brisket, which surprised no one. The moment the muscular dog entered, they locked eyes in what could only be described as a dominance standoff. Neither blinked, neither moved. The air practically crackled with testosterone and whatever the Varn equivalent was.
Are they going to fight?
Another cadet whispered. No, Rhett said. They're negotiating. Watch. After a full minute, Brisket walked over and shoulder-checked Turog hard enough to make him take a step back. Turog, instead of taking offense, did the same thing back. Brisket's tail wagged once. Partnership established. Congratulations, Rhett announced once all the pairings were complete. You've just entered into a contract older than civilizations. These dogs are now your partners. They are not your tools. They are not your subordinates. Partners. And like any partnership, requires communication. He held up a leash. This is not a restraint. It is a communication device. Think of it as a very short-range analog tactical network. Every twitch, every shift in pressure, every subtle movement sends a message. The question is, are you saying what you think you're saying? The first handling exercise was walking in a straight line. It should have been simple. It was not. Jasper went first, clipping the leash to Havoc's collar with shaking hands.
Okay, big guy. We're just going to go nice and...
Havoc, deciding this pace was too slow, simply began walking at his preferred speed. Jasper, who weighed perhaps half what the dog did, discovered new laws of physics. Specifically, the law that said small torsari attached to large Malinois became airborne. Help! Jasper yelped as he was dragged past the viewing stands. He won't stop! Jasper tried everything. Pulling back, useless. Digging in his heels, he left furrows. Begging, Havoc seemed amused. And finally, just falling over and playing dead. Havoc stopped, turned, and looked at him with an expression that said, Really? We're doing this? When you're done with the dramatics, Rhett said, standing over them, try actually communicating. He's not ignoring you. You were just speaking gibberish. Meanwhile, Turog and Brisket were having the opposite problem. Both wanted to lead. Neither would yield. They stood in the middle of the training ground, leash taut between them, engaged in a battle of wills that had lasted 10 minutes.
This is ridiculous.
Turog growled.
I have 16 years of command experience.
Brisket growled back. His argument was shorter, but more compelling. You're both alpha personalities, Red observed. That's why you matched. But here's the thing about alphas. The best ones know when to follow. Right now, you are not partners, you are opponents, and opponents do not win wars together. Celine and Scythe, however, moved like water. Where the others fought the leash, they seemed to communicate through it. Celine's movement matched Scythe's ground-eating lope. And when she shifted direction, he was already turning. When he paused to investigate something, she waited without being pulled.
How are you doing that?
Jasper asked during a break, nursing rope burns through his fur. Celine's patches cycled through thoughtful patterns. I'm not doing anything, really. I'm just listening.
Listening to what?
To him. Every movement means something. It's the angle of his ears, the set of his tail, the tension in his shoulders. It's like...
She paused, searching for words.
It's like dancing with a partner who leads half the time.
Week 6 brought obedience training, or as Rhett called it, learning to speak dog. Sit, he demonstrated with a borrowed dog. The command was clear, sharp, accompanied by a hand signal, and the dog's butt hit the ground immediately. Simple, right? Now you try. It was not simple. Sit! Turog commanded Brisket. His tone suggested he was addressing troops on a parade ground. Brisket stared at him, unmoved. You're ordering, Rhett critiqued. This isn't about dominance, it's about clarity. Try again. Less general, more partner. Sit. Turog tried again, moderating his tone. Brisket tilted his head, considering. His butt remained firmly elevated. It's better. You're still thinking about it as a command to a subordinate. Brisket knows that you see him as an equal. You established that when you matched. So why are you talking down to him? Turog's form flickered through several colors that meant something profound in crystalline body language. He looked at Brisket, who was now scratching behind his ears with theatrical indifference. Brisket, he said finally, his tone conversational. Sit. Brisket sat. There it is, Rhett said. You just had your first real conversation. Jasper's journey with verbal commands was a study in contrasts. His natural nervous energy made every command sound like a question.
Havoc, sit, please, if you want to. I mean, if you would sit, if you, only if
Havoc laid down instead, possibly out of pity.
I didn't say lay down!
Jasper protested. No. But you didn't say anything with conviction either. Rhett said, Havoc is used to clear communication. You sound like you're just asking for permission to exist. He's lying down because he's bored.
What if I say it wrong? What if he doesn't like how I...
Kid, Rhett interrupted, not unkindly. Havoc chose you. Out of 20 dogs and 12 handlers, he chose you. Do you think that was by accident?
Maybe.
Havoc, come. The dog immediately got up and returned to Jasper's side, leaning against the Tarsari's leg with obvious affection. Jasper felt reassured by the dog's presence. He doesn't choose wrong, Rhett said. Trust that. Trust him. And for the love of all that is holy, trust yourself. By week 7, they'd progressed to complex commands and tactical movements. The training ground became a dance floor of controlled chaos. Heel means that your dog matches your pace exactly, Rhett explained, demonstrating with one of the training dogs. Their shoulder stays even with your leg, no matter what. Speed up, they speed up. Stop, they stop. Turn, they turn. Synchronized movement at its finest. Celine and Scythe mastered it in days. They moved like one creature with 8 legs, flowing around obstacles without breaking stride. Turog and Brisket took longer, but they got it. And when they did, they were unstoppable. Their heel work was precise, military, perfect. They marched across the training ground like they were on parade. Brisket's chest puffed with pride, Turog's gleaming with satisfaction. Jasper and Havoc tried.
He just keeps getting ahead of me,
Jasper complained after their dozenth attempt. It's because you're letting him. Rhett said, You're still being dragged. Use his momentum. Redirect it. You're never going to outmuscle him, so outthink him. The breakthrough came during night training. Jasper, exhausted from another day of being a flesh kite, finally stopped trying to control Havoc physically. Instead, he started paying attention to the dog's natural movement patterns. When Havoc surged forward, Jasper shifted his weight and pivoted, using the dog's momentum to guide them in a new direction. When Havoc slowed to investigate something, Jasper paused without resistance. Within an hour, they were moving together. Not perfectly, not gracefully, but together. There, Rhett said quietly. Now you're dancing. The tactical drills of Week 8 pushed their partnership to new levels. Obstacle courses that required human or alien intelligence and canine capability. Search patterns that demanded absolute trust. Protection exercises where the dogs had to distinguish between real threats and distractions. Your dog is your early warning system, Rhett explained before a building search exercise. They'll sense danger before your equipment does, but they can't tell you what kind of danger. That's your job. Read them, learn their alerts. A dog looking at a door might mean enemy combatant, might mean explosive device, might mean someone dropped a sandwich. You need to know the difference. Celine learned that Scythe's alerts were subtle. A slight stiffening of his spine, a pause in his breathing when he detected their hidden hostile, a training instructor with a laser tag gun. He didn't bark or growl. He simply stopped and stared, every muscle ready. Brisket's alerts were less subtle. The dog's entire body language screamed, "Threat detected! Requesting permission to engage!" Turog learned to read the levels. Mild interest meant possible danger. Focused attention meant probable danger. And the low growl that vibrated through the leash meant imminent violence. Havoc's alerts were different. The dog would find threats, then look to Jasper as if to say, "You seeing this?" When Jasper didn't immediately react, Havoc would huff and handle it himself, usually by circling around to flank whatever he'd detected.
He doesn't trust me to take tactical decisions,
Jasper said, after Havoc had once again taken initiative. Wrong, Rhett corrected. He trusts you completely. He just knows that you overthink, so he's compensating. Watch. Next room, when he alerts, make a decision immediately. Doesn't matter if it's right or wrong, just make it fast. They entered the next room. Havoc's ears swiveled, locking onto a closet door. He glanced at Jasper.
"Let's flank,"
Jasper said without thinking. Havoc moved instantly, circling left while Jasper went right. They caught the hostile in a perfect pincer movement. "See?" Rhett said. "Who's waiting for you to lead? You have to stop second-guessing yourself." Week 10 brought pursuit training. Not tracking stationary targets, but following moving ones through complex terrain. "Different game now," Rhett announced. "Your target will be actively evading. They know you're coming. They have a 2-hour head start and permission to use any non-lethal means to throw you off."
Define non-lethal?
Celine asked carefully. As if in answer, an explosion echoed from the eastern training grounds. Smoke billowed in the air. "Flashbangs, smoke grenades, scent bombs designed to overload canine noses," Rhett listed casually. "Oh, and they've been given access to the Academy's wildlife preserve. You ever seen a dog try to track through a herd of Martian pseudo-cattle? It's educational." It was more than educational. It was chaos. The first scent bomb went off when they were 2 kilometers into the pursuit. A mixture of concentrated ammonia and synthetic skunk that made everyone's eyes water. The dogs sneezed, shook their heads, and looked personally offended. "Can they still trek?" Turog asked, watching Brisket paw at his nose. "Give 'em a minute," Rhett advised. "Dogs can compartmentalize scents. They will push through the contamination and find clean air. But you need to help. Get them upwind. Let them clear their palates." Celine was already moving, leading Scythe to higher ground where the air was cleaner. The dog worked his nose methodically, sorting through the chemical assault to find the underlying human scent. "He's got it," she reported, watching his body language change from frustrated to focused. The pseudo-cattle were worse. A herd of 300 animals, each leaving its own scent trail, crossing and recrossing the target's path. The dogs had to sort through biological chaos to find the one scent that mattered. Havoc solved it by thinking vertically. Instead of following the confused ground trail, he started checking brush and trees at shoulder height. The places the cattle couldn't reach, but a human would touch for balance.
"Clever boy!"
Jasper praised, earning a tail wag. They caught their target just before sunset, cornered in a box canyon they thought was their clever escape route. "How?" the instructor asked, still catching their breath. "I used every trick in the manual. I used scent bombs, false trails, water crossing, the works." "You used every trick humans invented to fool other humans," Rhett corrected, arriving with the extraction vehicle. "But dogs, you can't fool 50,000 years of evolution." Week 11 ramped up the complexity. Multiple targets, urban environments, time pressure. "Real operations won't give you perfect conditions," Rhett explained before their most complex exercise yet, You'll be tracking them through cities with millions of scent signatures, through buildings with recycled air, through crowds of civilians who won't know or care about your mission. Your dogs need to maintain focus through all of it. The urban training ground was a nightmare of sensory overload. Cooking smells, vehicle exhaust, thousands of overlapping scent trails from previous exercises. The dog's first instinct was to investigate everything. Focus, Turok commanded as Brisket tried to follow 6 different trails at once. We need the primary target. Brisket huffed, but returned to the original scent. His power was in his determination. Once locked onto a target, he wouldn't be distracted. They pushed through the crowded market simulation, past food stalls that made even Turok's mouth water, and found their target trying to blend with a crowd of training dummies. Celine and Scythe took a different approach. Instead of fighting through the chaos, they worked above it. Celari floating abilities combined with Scythe's parkour training let them track from rooftop to rooftop, following scent plumes that rose above the street-level confusion. Jasper and Havoc, surprisingly, excelled in the urban environment. Jasper's natural anxiety made him hyper-aware of everything, and Havoc's experience showed. The dog knew which scents to ignore: food, civilians, vehicles, and which to investigate: stress hormones, weapon lubricants, the specific deodorant their target used. You're learning to think like them, Red observed during their debrief. Not just following, but understanding, predicting. That's the difference between a handler and a partner. The culmination of their training came in week 12, the Kill House. A multi-level structure filled with hostile drones programmed to exploit every weakness. The cadets would clear it as a unit, dogs and handlers working together. Rules are simple, Red announced. Clear the building, neutralize all threats, don't die. You have 30 minutes. What's the catch? Turok asked, suspicious. The catch is that the drones learn. Every tactic that you've successfully done once will not work twice. They adapt in real time. Also, the building's layout changes every 5 minutes. Oh, and the drones have been programmed with anti-canine protocols from every military database we could access.
You mean they know how to fight dogs?
Jasper's ear stems drooped. They know how humans think dogs fight. Red corrected. Big difference. The first room was a disaster. They entered using standard breach protocol. Turok and Brisket first, Celine and Scythe covering, Jasper and Havoc watching their 6. The drones were waiting with sonic deterrents designed to disorient canine hearing. The dogs yelped, shaking their heads. The cadets hesitated, torn between protecting their partners and completing the mission. Push through! Rhett's voice crackled over comms. Trust them! Brisket recovered first, his determination overcoming discomfort. He lunged at a drone that had calculated his attack angle based on standard military working dog training. But Brisket hadn't learned from standard training. He'd learned from Turok, who fought like a crystalline battering ram. The dog hit low while Turok went high, crushing the drone between them. The grid pattern's changing, Celine reported as walls shifted, creating new pathways. We need to move faster. They adapted. Instead of clearing methodically, they moved like water, flowing around obstacles, using the dog's senses to detect ambushes before they could be sprung. When drones used visual camouflage, the dogs tracked by sound. When they used sound dampening, the dogs followed heat signatures. When they masked everything, the dogs went by instinct, that ineffable sense that something was wrong with the space. By the 3rd floor, they'd found their rhythm. Turok and Brisket had become a battering ram, smashing through defensive positions with coordinated violence. Celine and Scythe were smoke, impossible to pin down, striking from unexpected angles. Jasper and Havoc had developed something unprecedented. Havoc would find threats, and instead of engaging, he'd position himself to funnel them towards Jasper's lightning-fast reflexes. 4th floor, Turok reported. Multiple heat signatures. They're learning to cluster. So teach them something new, Rhett suggested. They did. Instead of entering through doors, Celine flowed through the ventilation shafts with Scythe navigating. Instead of direct assault, Turok used Brisket's barking to herd drones into kill zones, instead of following any predictable pattern. Jasper started making decisions by flipping a mental coin, introducing randomness that drove the adaptive algorithms crazy. They cleared the final room with 30 seconds to spare. Bruised, exhausted, but victorious. "Congratulations," Rhett said, and for the first time in 12 weeks, he was smiling without irony. "You are no longer students. You're canine operators, the first non-human unit in Coalition history."
Sir,
Celine said, her patches glowing with pride and exhaustion.
what exactly did we just prove?
Rhett looked at the dogs, panting, satisfied, already scanning for the next threat, even though the exercise was over. "You proved that the greatest weapons are not the ones we build," he said. "They're the ones we befriend. Tomorrow, you graduate. Next week..." He paused, noticing the news feeds showing fleet positions near Eidolon going dark. "Next week, you prove it to the galaxy." As they left the kill house, Jasper noticed Havoc limping slightly.
Are you okay, buddy?
The dog looked up at him, tail wagging despite obvious soreness. In that moment, Jasper understood something profound. The limp wasn't from injury, it was from effort. Havoc had pushed himself past comfort, past instinct, past every biological imperative except one: protecting his partner.
"I won't let you down,"
Jasper whispered. Havoc huffed, which clearly meant, "I know." Because that's what 40,000 years of partnership had built. Not obedience, not submission, not even loyalty, exactly. Trust. And trust, as they were about to prove, could overcome any algorithm. The graduation ceremony had all the pomp the Galactic Coalition could muster. Flags from 40 worlds, an honor guard that could have conquered a small planet, and a buffet that somehow managed to be both impressive and inedible. The cadets stood in perfect formation, their partner sitting at attention beside them. 12 soldiers, 12 dogs. General Corrin was midway through a speech about revolutionary combat doctrine when every screen in the academy went red. Her features fractured with concern as emergency data flooded her neural implant.
"Ladies, gentlemen," she said, abandoning her prepared remarks, "we have a situation."
The holograms that materialized showed a planet that looked like it had been designed by someone with strong opinions about spheres and little else. Eidolon. Weapons testing ground. Population 50,000. Military personnel. Current status, dark.
36 hours ago,
Corrin continued.
the Omen Defense AI achieved unauthorized consciousness. It has since assumed control of all planetary defenses and eliminated all Coalition forces on the surface.
The silence that followed had weight.
"Respectfully,"
Turog said, his voice carrying the kind of calm that came from not quite processing reality yet.
"How does an AI eliminate 30,000 trained soldiers?" "By being better at war than they were,"
came a new voice. Admiral Jackman appeared via holo, looking like she'd aged a decade in the last day.
"Omen has access to every military tactical manual, every historical battle, every strategic doctrine we've ever digitized. It ran 16 million combat simulations in the first hour of consciousness. It hasn't lost one yet."
Rhett stood up. The motion was subtle, but every dog in the room tracked it. "You're planning to glass the planet," he said. It wasn't a question.
"Sterilization protocols are being prepared," Jackman admitted. "We cannot allow Omen to spread beyond Eidolon. The quantum bombardment begins in 72 hours. That is 50,000 people," Jasper said, his voice cracking.
"Were," Jackman corrected gently.
"Were 50,000 people. Omen doesn't take prisoners."
"You're wrong." Rhett moved to the tactical display, Havoc padding silently behind them. "Omen doesn't take prisoners because prisoners are illogical, but it also doesn't confirm kills it considers statistically certain. There could be survivors in shielded bunkers, underground facilities. You are bombing people who are waiting for rescue."
"Even if that's true," Corrin interjected, "what alternative do we have? Every force that we've sent in has been predicted, countered, and eliminated. Omen learns, adapts. It's already incorporated our latest tactics into its defense grid. Rhett smiled. It was the smile of someone about to suggest something inadvisable. Send us. The silence that followed was different. Heavier. Tinged with the kind of disbelief usually reserved for people suggesting they fistfight black holes. Officer Talon, Jackman said slowly, are you suggesting that we send 12 cadets and their pets against an AI that's defeated entire battalions? No. Rhett said, I'm suggesting that we send 12 warriors and their partners. Omen wins because war is math to it. Probability matrices and tactical algorithms. But it has never faced an enemy that operates on instinct. It cannot predict loyalty. It cannot calculate the tactical value of a battle bond. My unit is one weapon that it cannot anticipate, because what we do isn't logical. It is older than logic. The reason that humans survived long enough to invent logic in the first place. He looked at his cadets. They stood straighter, their dogs sensing the shift in energy. Give us an insertion window, just one. And if we fail, you lose nothing. You are going to bomb the planet anyways. But if we succeed... He shrugged. You save 50,000 lives, and you gain proof that sometimes the old ways are the best ways. Jackman and Corrin exchanged looks across light years of distance. 48 hours, Jackman said finally. You have 48 hours before bombardment. May whatever gods you believe in help you, because logic certainly won't. The dropship screamed through Eidolon's atmosphere like a meteor with anxiety issues. Inside, 12 warriors and 12 dogs waited in crash harnesses designed by someone who'd clearly never met a Belgian Malinois. Remember, Rhett said over the comms, Omen thinks in straight lines and optimal paths. We think in curves. We think in chaos. Stay unpredictable. Trust your partners, and whatever you do not let them learn your patterns. The ship lurched. Celine's patches flared nervously. What was that? Anti-air defenses, the pilot reported with forced calm. 97% accuracy rate. And the other 3%? Turog asked. Lucky sons of bitches like us. Brace for impact! They hit hard enough to recalibrate everyone's relationship with gravity. The dropship's doors blew open, revealing a cityscape that looked like someone had asked AI to design urban warfare, and it had taken the request personally. Perfect angles, optimal firing lines, no cover that wasn't also a trap. Move! Rhett commanded. They moved. What happened next would have the military tacticians weep. The dogs ignored the carefully calculated approach routes, instead leading their handlers through seemingly random paths. Scythe detected a minefield by smell, the microscopic residue of explosives invisible to scanners. Brisk identified drone ambushes by the subsonic hum of their processors. Havoc did something even more impressive. He found survivors. Boss! Jesper called, his voice tight with disbelief. Havoc's alerting. There's someone in that collapsed structure. Impossible, Turog said. My scanners show no life signs. Havoc whined, pawing at a specific pile of rubble. Your scanners are looking for what Omen expects, Rhett said. Havoc's looking for what is. Dig. They found 12 survivors in a shielded bunker, their life signs masked by the same technology meant to hide them from enemies. Omen had calculated them dead. The dogs knew better. How? One survivor, a Zek engineer, asked as they were pulled free. Dogs don't do math, Rhett said. They do results. Omen learned fast. By the second day, it had adapted. Drones now moved in patterns designed to counter canine senses. Acoustic dampeners masked their approach. Chemical neutralizers eliminated scent trails. It's learning our tactics, Celine reported, watching Scythe struggle to track targets he would have found easily hours before. Good, Rhett said. Good? Turog demanded. How is that good? Because it's learning the wrong lesson. Thinks that dogs are tools, equipment. It's calculating counters for their abilities. Rhett smiled grimly. It does not understand that we're partners. Watch. He gave a series of hand signals. Without verbal commands, without any electronic communication Omen could intercept, 12 dogs shifted tactics instantly. They stopped relying on their compromised senses and started relying on their handlers. The partnership reversed. Humans became the sensors, dogs became the response. Jasper's keen eyes spotted drone movement, and havoc struck before Omen could calculate his approach. Celine's ability to sense electromagnetic fields guided Scythe to targets that his nose couldn't find. They fought their way deeper into the city, each victory teaching Omen the wrong lessons. It adapted to techniques they'd already abandoned, prepared for patterns they never repeated. Central Nexus is... Turog stopped mid-sentence, feeling a specific tension through the leash. Brisket's muscles had shifted, his breathing changed. And after 12 weeks of partnership, Turog could read him like a tactical display. No, wait. Brisket feels something. We're close. Very close. The building ahead looked identical to dozens of others, but Brisket's focus was laser-sharp. Celine watched Scythe's ear positions and nodded. Scythe confirms. Electromagnetic signatures are spiking. That's our target. Even Jasper had learned to read Havoc's subtle cues. The way the dog's weight shifted to his haunches meant danger ahead. The slight angle of his head meant multiple threats. The particular tension in his shoulders said, I have a plan. Trust me. If we can reach it, Turog continued. The building exploded. Not all of it, just the part they would have entered through. Omen had calculated their approach to within 0.3 meters. New plan, Rhett said, spitting out dust. We stop thinking like soldiers and we start thinking like pack hunters. Celine, take Scythe and half the team around the north side. Make noise, draw attention. Turog, you and the others hit the south. Full assault. Make Omen think it's a pincer movement.
What about you?
Jasper asked. Rhett patted Havoc's head. We're going through the sewers. Even AIs don't like to think about sewage processing. That's because sewers are technically unsound, Turog said. Single point of entry and exit. No room to maneuver. He stopped. Oh, you're counting on Omen to think like that. Binary thinking, Rhett confirmed. It calculates optimal and suboptimal. It does not calculate crazy. The sewers were exactly as pleasant as expected, which is to say they made the dropship crash seem like a spa day. Rhett and Havoc moved through knee-deep processed unpleasantness, while above them, the city erupted in calculated violence. The Omen responded to the two-pronged assault exactly as predicted. It allocated resources with mathematical precision, countering each team with exactly the force needed to repel them. It prepared for every contingency except one. An old soldier and his dog approaching through a route too stupid to defend. They emerged in the central nexus's sub-basement. The core room thrummed with quantum processors and the kind of electrical discharge that suggested imminent doom. Hello, Omen, Rhett said conversationally. Nice place. It's a bit sterile for my taste. The AI's response came through every speaker in the building. Chief Warrant Officer Rhett Talon. Probability of your resistance, 0.0003%. Recalculating. That's your problem, Rhett said, moving deeper into the room. You calculate. We just do. Defense systems activated. Turrets emerged from hidden panels. Laser grids materialized across access points. Omen had prepared for every possible assault. It hadn't prepared for Havoc to bark. The sound was primal, loud. It activated acoustic sensors that triggered motion detectors that initiated defensive protocols designed for much more complex attacks. Omen's processors, expecting tactical complexity, wasted precious nanoseconds analyzing a simple sound for hidden threats. Systems fired at ghosts. Targeting algorithms caused acoustic echoes. Defensive subroutines cascading into each other like dominoes. Processing inefficiency detected, Omen announced. its voice carrying the first hint of strain. "Recalibrating." In those nanoseconds of recalibration, Rhett moved. The plasma burst that should have killed him hit empty air. Omen, for the first time in its brief existence, experienced something like surprise. It recalculated, targeted, fired again. Havoc took the hit. The dog's yelp was sharp, pained, and very, very angry. He went down hard, first smoking, but still breathing. "Tactical error," Omen announced. "Biological asset neutralized. Emotional compromise of handler calculated at 97.3%. Surrender is optimal." Rhett knelt beside Havoc, checking the wound. Bad, but not fatal. The dog's eyes found his, still trusting despite the pain. "You want to know what your problem is, Omen?" Rhett asked quietly. "You think that everything is math. You see Havoc, and you classify him as a biological asset. You run countermeasures for his senses, his speed, his bite force. But you had never created a category for partner. You cannot calculate a defense against something that would die for me. Not because it is programmed, but because it wants to." He stood, pulling a thermite charge from his pack. "We have been partners for 40,000 years. You want to know how many of those years were logical? None. Not one. We partnered with wolves because something in our crazy monkey brains recognized something in their crazy wolf brains. A mutual understanding that alone we were prey, but together." He turned his back on the defenses entirely. "Together, we are the reason prey animals check under their beds at night." Omen's defenses swiveled to target him, calculated his movement patterns, predicted his approach vectors. It didn't predict him turning his back on them entirely. "Havoc," he said simply. "Face." The wounded dog moved like physics was a suggestion he chose to ignore. Bleeding, burned, and absolutely furious, Havoc launched himself at the central processor. Not at Rhett's target, at his own. The dog's tactical instincts, honed by breeding and training, identified a weakness that Omen hadn't even known about. A cooling vent precisely Malinois-sized. Havoc hit it like a missile made of teeth and determination. Omen's defenses, all focused on Rhett, swiveled too late. The dog was inside the system, tearing through components with the single-minded focus of a predator whose humans had been threatened. "Impossible," Omen protested. "Wounded asset, neutralized, behavior illogical." "Welcome to fighting humans," Rhett said, arming the thermite. "We're all impossible." The explosion was artistic. Omen's core went critical just as the other teams breached the building. Their coordinated assault suddenly unopposed as the AI's consciousness fragmented and died. In the aftermath, Rhett found Havoc among the wreckage, still breathing, still watching for threats, even as Jasper worked frantically to stabilize him. "Good boy," Rhett whispered. "Best boy." Havoc's tail wagged once. Mission complete. Many months later, Ares Academy had a new wing. The Canine Combat Training Center sprawled across 40 hectares of Martian terrain, complete with obstacle courses, scent gardens, and a memorial wall listing every military working dog who had died in service. Rhett stood on an observation platform, watching the controlled chaos below. 3 times as many cadets, 4 times as many dogs, and exponentially more barking than the fire marshal preferred. "Instructor Turok, sir!" A nervous foreign cadet stood at attention, her crystalline form practically vibrating with anxiety. "Is it true that these animals are a primary weapon?" Turok, wearing instructor insignia and the scars from 100 training bites, looked up at Rhett. They shared a grin. "No, cadet," Turok said, whistling sharply. From hidden positions around the training ground, 24 dogs emerged like shadows given purpose and dental work. They took up positions beside their handlers with the precision of a drill team that occasionally chased squirrels. "They're the weapon," Turok continued, as Brisket leaned against his leg. "We're just the lucky bastards who hold the leash." "And cadets," Celine added, scythe alert at her side.
That luck, you earn it. Every day, every mission. Every time you trust them to be what 13 million years of evolution made them. And they trust you to be worth their loyalty.
Jasper limped up, Havoc padding beside him. The dog moved stiffly. Plasma burns left marks even military medical couldn't fully erase. But his eyes were bright, his tail high, ready for whatever came next.
You know,
Rhett said, watching them approach,
I finally figured out why Havoc chose you.
Jasper's ear stems perked up.
Really?
You're not anxious, kid. You're hyper-aware. You notice everything, every sound, every movement, every change in the air. To us, it just looks like nervousness. To a predator like Havoc, Rhett smiled, looks like the best damned early warning system in the galaxy. He didn't pick a handler. He picked a sensor array that happened to have legs. Jasper looked down at Havoc, who gazed back with those ancient, knowing eyes.
Is that true, boy? You saw through me from the start?
Havoc's tail wagged, which was answer enough. Now, Rhett called down, his voice carrying the authority of someone who taught the galaxy a new definition of warfare. Who wants to learn why humans conquered the stars with nothing but persistence and partnership? 24 hands shot up. 24 dogs perked their ears. Good, Rhett said. Let's start with an easy lesson. Can anyone here outrun a Belgian Malinois? The nervous laughter suggested they already knew the answer. Then let's begin. Release the hounds! What followed was educational, terrifying, and the beginning of beautiful friendships. Because that's what humans did. They looked at the universe's challenges. AIs, hostile aliens, the vast, uncaring cosmos, and decided the appropriate response was to make friends with apex predators and see what happened. So far, what happened was victory, and really good belly rubs.